Hey bud, how you doing? Welcome to Herp Corner. Here we are in the Postojna caves of Slovenia, the longest caves in Slovenia, where we'll be talking about the Olm, also known as the Olm, the blind cave salamander, the human fish, which is weird because, they're not fish, but you already knew that. The Groton Olm, the White Olm, the White Salamander, the Black Olm, and in, I think, Spanish, hulepade, which means rubber pad. Okay. In Estonian, the kopalm. French, prutiangiard. In Norwegian, the ullsalamander. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. In Polish, zieskinayu. Sorry about that one. In Finnish, olmi. Okay. In Croatian, no, these are too many. Oh my god. Čovečija ribisa. Jesus. In Slovenian, Kloveska ribika, and I'm only saying that because Google Translate does not have a pronunciation for it, so please calm down. And in Greek, technically, Proteus, which references an old Greek mythos of a sea god serpent-type man who had prophecies. Prophecies of what? You'll just have to read it yourself. Now, as you might be able to guess by a quick little glance at these little men, they look very strange. A few weeks ago, I showed my dad an image of this species, to his own chagrin, I'd say, because he had quite the knee-jerk reaction to this animal. I had an image of this on my phone that I showed him, which made him immediately respond with, "What the hell is that?" I said, "It's an owl. I don't like it. What's wrong with him?" I said, that's just what he looks like. And then he said, he doesn't look like he has a very good life. Suffice to say, critics are not a fan of this one. I, however, love him immensely. The evolutionary path one went on to develop such a just screwed up look is quite interesting. Now, you may or may not be familiar with this species, the Mexican tetra. I know it's a fish, I know, but stay with me on this. Both the Mexican tetra and the olm have evolved to effectively lose their eyes. This actually makes sense if you're a fish. Listen to this. Maintaining eyes is relatively difficult and takes up a lot of energy. Absorbing visual info and whatnot. So it's only reasonable that animals whose eyes are basically useless skip them entirely. Because imagine the kind of place that these boys are found in. Deep, dark caves and, all that's associated. Really, the only senses they require in that scenario is literally any one other than sight. Since it's just completely pitch black there. However, the way that the Mexican tetras divert from the olm is in how they actually find their way around. You see, the way the Mexican tetra makes up for a loss of sight is they just suck really, really hard. I'm not just being crude here. The scientist.com states, the animal emits a pressure wave and senses modulation of that pressure by surrounding objects. Couldn't have said it better myself. Olms, however, have keen senses other than sight. They've got organs you've never even heard of. For instance, they can use their, and excuse the gibberish, ampullary organ made of electroreceptors to sense tonic electrical discharges. Can you do that? They can additionally observe different magnetic fields, aside from the normal heightened scent and hearing, which isn't as cool. That's only how they're able to get their bearings, though. There's a lot more to these phallic little men than just that. Also important to note the fact that olms do somewhat still possess sight. Kind of. A little. Well, they can visually sense changes in light. Like, if you shine a flashlight in their face, they'll know. That's the most they can do with their baby, tiny baby eyes, though. Any amphibian fans out there might have already caught on to this one, but the olm shares a striking resemblance to the axolotl, which, yes, that's how you pronounce it. That's how you actually pronounce it, not axolotl. I made the mistake in the first episode. I'll never make the same mistake again. The reason for this visual similarity is because they, too, are neotenic salamanders. What that means is they effectively don't visually age. They stay in the larval stage forever. Actually, similarly to the axolotl, they have translucent skin, meaning you can basically see their organs from the outside, which is very cool. This translucentness derives from the fact that most of them possess a lack of pigment in the skin, causing it to be so thin you can see right through it, most apparently through their stomach. This is only for some of them, however. Similarly to the ocelot, they come in both white with pink gills and olive with black gills. However, it is still debated whether this difference in coloration is due to different subspecies or simply a different morph. Who knows? I do not. But either way, both are cool. Even if you can only see their organs through one of them's stomach. Speaking of, they can go some of the longest periods on an empty stomach and live for supremely absurd amounts of time. They can go for upwards of 12 years without food, very comfortably, might I add, and can live up to 58 years. For reference, a chameleon, or some species of chameleons, only live for 5 years. Oh my god, ridiculous. The food they feed on, however, is commonly small cave shrimp. If you end up keeping these little men in captivity, keep this in mind. We'll touch more on their care in a little bit. Let's focus on their natural history for now. The olm was discovered in 1768 by Mr. Josephus Nicholas Laurenti, an Austrian-Italian zoologist and general naturalist. They're mostly found in the underground wetlands of Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Slovenia. They're additionally found, albeit non-native, in Italy. They were estimated to be introduced there in the 1800s. This little purple blot initially confused me a ton since I'd never seen it before in an IUCN Red List map. But don't worry, it makes sense. It indicates areas that they were artificially introduced to. Might also be helpful to add that despite the scarce documentation, some anecdotes have been provided of olms being found in western Montenegro. Doesn't show here, but you and I can know. That'll be our secret. The IUCN Red List classifies these fellas as vulnerable, which is deeply unfortunate. Greatest regards to the olms of the world. The reasons for a rapidly declining population mostly includes pollution, tourism, and terraforming of the ground above them. Additionally, they are threatened by importers and exporters trading them around illegally. This most definitely greatly harms their population, although how much it actually affects them is unknown. We just know it's happening, and it's bad. But do not worry. There are some, minimal, but some, conservation efforts being acted upon to attempt to help these animals' numbers. Of course there are efforts. The Slovenian national government considers these guys a national treasure. I'll be real with you, I consider them a global treasure. They're also on the 10 Staten coin, which is immensely good and nice and the best. But that's besides the point. Point is, such efforts include putting appendixes in place. No, not that one. Appendix as in a legal document attached at the final part of an article. In this case, a legal article outlawing the distribution and the keeping of the olm. Speaking of keeping the olm, it's care time. The care of these fellas is mostly not documented, kind of at all. That's because, as previously stated, keeping them is illegal. Illegal. You can't do it unless you are a zoo, of course, or have some sort of license, or both. Not impossible, but in regards to keeping them as simply a pet and not a research or breeding project, it's probably not worth it. Feeding them is pretty standard for aquatic amphibians as well. Very much comparable to what you'd feed an axolotl. They similarly eat insects, snails, worms, larvae, and, as previously mentioned, small shrimp. Here's a fun fact. They don't chew. They're quite similar to snakes in the fact that they swallow prey completely whole. Also similar to the mata turtle, but completely different auras going on here. In regards to the enclosure itself, it's more of a difficult feat. It's going to need to have very little, if any at all, light coming in. They hate light. They hate it. Therefore, an enclosure with almost no visibility is necessary. This could be accomplished by using one-way glass or using a tub or using a background on all sides. Either way, you're not going to see any of this animal. Yeah. Which might be a con for some, to which I'd respond with, maybe olms just aren't for you. I'm sorry. The size of the actual enclosure should be no less than 3 feet long. Some people recommend at least 2 feet for an ocelot, but I honestly think that's way too small. I don't care what I said in the ocelot video, I changed my mind. Okay, stop messaging me about it. The style of tank itself could be primarily aquatic, but honestly, I think a semi-terrestrial one is alright too, just so long as a majority of it is aquatic. They hang around at varied depths throughout the caves, so it'd be pretty cool if someone managed to replicate that in captivity. As for specifics on the condition you should hold the water at and whatnot, I'd recommend looking into the care of aquatic reptiles and amphibians in that general area. Just similar guys, you know. I'd say they're similar to gargoyle geckos in the sense that they prefer it cold. I mean, it's insanely chilly where I am right now, so yeah. But as far as breeding is concerned, oh boy. First off, they're oviparous. This means females will lay eggs before they're born. They're a mix of oviparous and ovoviviparous. I know it's confusing. I know. But it's okay. Ovoviviparous means the baby is born while the egg is still in the mother. So, first off, olms lay upwards of 70 eggs. 70. Think about that for a second. Each egg is half an inch, and they only lay eggs once every 12 years. So if you're only interested in breeding these fellas for the money, maybe consider a different career option. However, I do mention the fact that they are ovoviviparous because, as I said, it means the baby is born while the egg is still in the mother, so technically it's a live birth. Although a majority of the eggs that are found with olms are outside of them, there have been cases where minimal, usually like 2 or 3 eggs, can be born inside the mother. So a mix, debatably, you could excuse that as just being, I don't know, some sort of defect, but it happens. It's happened multiple times. So, anyway, considering olms in the wild congregate under rocks and hides, I'd say cohabbing is good, if anything, necessary to them thriving in captivity. Because of this, if you do manage to get your hands on a fella and want to try breeding them, it's alright to put multiple in the same enclosure. They're very subtly sexually dimorphic, only being able to tell by the females being very slightly bigger than the males. Though do note that the more olms you house in an enclosure, the bigger the enclosure's gotta be. I know this might sound like an obvious thing, but you'd be surprised. Alright, now before we wrap up, here's 2 truths and a lie about this species. Let's see if you were paying attention. The olm is classified as critically endangered. B, the olm is neotenic. And C, you can see the organs of some olms through their abdomen. Which one was the lie? Feel free to comment down below. If you cheat by waiting until the end for me to tell you, I will Okay, bud, I think you know what time it is. As always, sources will be in the description. If you're interested in this topic, I'd recommend looking further into their husbandry or history. If you like what I do and know a specific reptile or amphibian you'd like to see me cover, put in the comments. Chances are, if you've made it to the end, you're probably like me, hyperfixating like crazy on reptiles. Well, if that's the case, then this is the perfect channel for you. Feel free to subscribe since I do these every other week. Like the video to support the channel. Have a good evening, morning, or afternoon. Thank you for listening, watching, whatever. And I'll see you next time. By the way, the lie was answer A. They are not classified as critically endangered, they are classified as vulnerable. Close, but thankfully not the same thing. Anyway, have a good rest of your, today. Good night.